What's up, ladies and gents? It's Zem from Shrike Gaming, and I am actually doing. I'm going to do this series. Actually, it's going to be iconic planes series from World War II, and this is the planes that you read about, planes that you've seen in the films. You know, this is going to be the Bf-109s, the Spitfires, the Sturmovix, P-38s. The iconic planes of World War II. Most of these are going to be tier 4s, tier 5s, and tier 6s because this is where the iconic planes start showing up in the tech trees. So yeah, this is going to be kind of a series because somebody asked for some reviews of planes that are in the tech trees and not just premium. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do some of these iconic planes, F4Fs, obviously, the P-47, those kind of the planes that fought the majority of World War II. I'm not really going to get into the paper planes, none of that kind of stuff. These are just going to be the iconic planes from World War II. And starting out, we're going to do the P-38. This is the J model. You get the F model at tier 5. This plane was a answer to a call by the U.S. Army Air Force in 1937 for an aircraft that could reach 20,000 feet in 6 minutes and had a speed of 360 miles an hour. Lockheed come up with this twin boom design. It was kind of revolutionary to a certain degree. There had only been a handful of aircraft, maybe 2 other aircraft that actually had this twin boom single cockpit design, and this was actually unusual for an American plane because it actually had all of the weapons clustered in the nose. Most of them at the time most of the machine guns actually were on the wings. This aircraft, however, did not do well. It was kind of a mixed bag of how it performed. It did not do well in Europe just because of the Germans' planes were so, how do I want to put it, altitude performance, speed matched this or exceeded it by a great deal most of the time, and it was more maneuverable than the P-38. This doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad design. It had some early issues with the early models of this plane. Had a lot of problems. They were mostly cleared up by the J model, but for the most part, as a long-range escort for bombers, it did not fare well when it ran into the 109s, the Fox, those kind of planes, just because they exceeded its performance in just about everything from speed, altitude, and maneuverability. So yeah, it did not do terribly well in Europe. In fact, the British didn't even want it, French didn't want it, nobody really used it other than the Air Force, the Army, United States Army Air Force, over in the European sector. However, since it was such a great twin boom design with a long range, it was used for a number of different reasons. This just as a fighter, it was used as a fighter bomber, reconnaissance. It could do all these things with its high speed and its its long range. So it did do a fair amount of duty in the European theater. However, it really came into its being in the Pacific theater, where it was flying against aircraft that were not quite as powerful as the 109s and the Fox. The Zeros did not have the altitude ability. They didn't do well. They weren't as fast, and they were very, very lightly armored, I should say. So this plane did quite well. In fact, it produced 100 ace pilots for the U.S. Army Air Force in the Pacific, which means it got 5 kills. Actually, I think Richard Bong was the leading ace for the Americans with 40 kills, and he flew this aircraft. So yeah, it was just a matter of more of where it was used. So like I said, the actual record of it was somewhat mixed depending on where it was flying. It did quite well. Like I said, over 1,800 aircraft destroyed in the Pacific compared to what it was doing in the European. But as an aircraft, and the fact that it had the range and the speed, they used it extensively for many things other than just a fighter, an interceptor. It was the fighter bomber. It carried bombs, rockets. It could do a little bit. It was quite a mixed bag aircraft. After the war, it was used in some very strange things. It was sold to the Hondurans. China got some. The CIA run it as a kind of a let's overthrow government plane. The Indians turned it into a luxurious VIP high-speed transport. They actually took the nose cone out, replaced it with clear glass, and the VIP would sit in the nose and sightsee with it. So yeah, it was used extensively. I shouldn't say extensively. It was used after the World War II, and just eventually phased out, obviously, because of the jets. So that's the history of this aircraft. We are playing, in this game, we played with a P-38F and a P-38J, which gives us, which gives us the 450s, 137, two 500-pound bombs, and 10 rockets. I usually play with improved covering 2, reinforced airframe, and additional armor plating. I play this as a traditional heavy fighter. And my pilot skills, I usually run, I start out with the expert rocketeer because I use rockets quite extensively in this aircraft. But, by the time I get done, I'll probably end up going with the Raptor Strike, engine gurus, the battle tested, as well as the protection expert. I play, like you said, when I play most of my planes, and my pilot skills and my equipment usually match what I'm playing, and that's what I do with the heavy fighter. Of course, you can throw things on here to increase the speed of the aircraft, that kind of thing, aircraft polish, whatever you want to do. It doesn't catch fire often, so I usually don't even worry about that kind of stuff too much. But for the most part, I play it as a traditional heavy fighter. But it can do so much more. You can put this thing in on the ground, and you can drop bombs and use your rockets to knock out ground targets. It's an excellent GA beater. Beats the crap out of them. You can play the high altitude, take on the bombers, and you're watching the videos what I'm talking about. I fly all over the place, kind of giving you guys an idea of what this thing can do. So, I don't think there is too much else that I'm missing here. You get 2 of them. Obviously, you get the P-38F, the P-38J, and then you'll, of course, get the Tiger Cat, the F-7F, which was a naval aircraft. So, yeah, enjoy the 2 P-38s you're going to get. Like I said, iconic planes. Real fun to play once you get that zoom and boom figured out. It makes a whole bunch of difference. So I'm going to be bringing up 2 games for you guys tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy them. All right, guys, back with the gameplay for the P-38. I'm actually flying the J model in this one. In the other videos, I'll be flying the F model sometimes. I actually believe one other video is an F model. So I'm going to give you a little bit of both on this one since there's 2 of them in game. I'm loaded out with rockets and bombs. And the other one, I think I'm only loaded out with rockets because that's all you can carry, because you can't carry bombs at the same time. Whatever, right? So, since I have the bombs, I'm going to use them here just because they do a pretty good, nice job of actually destroying some targets. And these guys, and this is simply just a, air defense fighters. I'm not terribly worried about it. This does have a ridiculously nice rate of climb. So yeah, just getting in behind this bullfighter isn't very hard. Flip back up over on here, and then we actually have a Mosquito and an XP-50 coming in. And never go head-to-head with a P-38 carrying rockets. I love that when that happens. Flip back over here, see if I can get the XP. He's running. Down he goes. I notice we actually have a bomber up high, so I accelerate and start to climb as much as I can and see if I can get in on his rear. This is typically what, in the video I made about which I'm finding effective as a heavy fighter. Bombers should be your #1 target anytime you run into them, whether they are player bombers or bomber formations, whatever, because you have the HP as a heavy fighter. You also have the guns as a heavy fighter to do this. 37 heats up pretty quickly here, so I'm just relying on 50s. And of course, because A26B has a fucking epic crap ton of HP, yeah, it has a tendency to wreck you just trying to kill a full health one. But I run him over to the garrison, and he died over the garrison, so we got the points anyway. So I flip down, I'm looking for my next target, running the XP-50. Yeah, and he sets me on fire, of course, because that's a bot. But you notice how much HP I took out of him with that pass. Flip back over, coming on him, and about that time I realized the KI-61 is on my tail, because, bots. He has that bot had no clue what he was doing. He's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna be totally out of position, and I'm gonna there and shoot down a heavy fighter. Gotta love them guys. So P-38, this is, as I said in the garage, this is a heavy fighter. So you have to play as a heavy fighter as much as you can. But at the same time, you also got to, you want to win the game. So sometimes you have to play this a little unorthodox once in a while, and that's all right. Whatever it takes to win. So I got myself another bomber and a heavy fighter, and that's what I tend to do with these heavy fighters. I tend to pick on other heavy fighters, bombers, and when I do get a chance, I like to go after light fighters, only if they are either going away from me or coming straight at me, or they are climbing. Typically a light fighter, he'll burn up a lot of boost trying to get to altitude, and then all of a sudden he'll drop off speed, and that's the time you like to get the jump on them. But in this video I spend most of my time trying to wreck bombers as much as I can. That way I feathered that one out a little bit better than the last one. That also didn't have an epic shit ton of HP. So Eldwin, you're my next target. These big, beautiful 37 on this thing does a nice job of putting some serious damage on targets. Same way with the 50s. So I find Mr. Watanabe. This time I got him flying at an angle to me and then away from me. So I'm able to zoom and boom him. Of course, the A26. Yeah, 150s, they're so wonderfully accurate, and they just, this is why you noticed in my equipment setup why I do what I do. If I'm going to be dealing with these kind of planes, I want this thing to have as much HP as I can, and of course as armored as I can get it. So I got one P-38J here left on the bottom. We got this pretty much well in hand. In fact, more than well in hand. We actually have air supremacy here. And the game is pretty much over with. So I got 3 ground attacks and one more P-38J down here in the bottom. Put a little bit of burst into this guy, pull up out of it, swing back over, and I was going to go after the ground attack planes, and then I saw the 38J. I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to get him. He's a human pilot. Put a shell into him, and then, yeah. What the fuck? Those things, I get killed by them all the time. I don't know why. Everything else is bustable in game except for them. So that's actually pretty much the game. We've already had all 3 objective points, so even by the time I spawned in, it wasn't really going to matter. But you can see as the playstyle of the aircraft, it does really well in the zoom and boom. You can get down on those targets with the 37s and the 450s, and you can most of the time just simply annihilate light fighters if you have to, multi-rolls and whatnot. So I'm going to bring it up to a couple more games here, and hope you guys hang on. Alright guys, back with the second game in the P-39F. This is the tier 5 one. This does not carry bombs. You can carry bombs, but you can't carry bombs and rockets at the same time. So this just carries the rockets. So this is it's just slightly different than the J. The J is obviously more capable at tier 6. The tier 5 is pretty much plays identical. So from the bot videos that I did, there's going to be planes over the mining plant, and that's where I'm headed with this thing. I'm going to pick on me some GAs. Any heavy fighters that happen to stray here, and I'm going to loiter. I typically like to loiter right around the 8,000, 9,000 feet in my heavy fighter, and I don't like to hit loiter over objectives, at least until that GA gets there. It's just it's just a little bit less damage you're going to take from altitude, from the high altitude AAs. I'm actually waiting for the red pilots to show up. There we go. And they're down there a little ways, and with the way the game has changed, this is possible. Before, with a heavy fighter, you just hung around 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 feet, and people would come up to you. That doesn't happen anymore because, objectives. So you do have to go on a regular basis low to deal with these planes. So I got me an F2A. put a crap ton of lead into him, take off a big chunk of his health, and of course I check my 6, nobody's following me, flip back over, got the A6M3 here coming at me, and he wants to play, yeah, he wants to go head to head, and there he is, kind of. Take off a majority of his health with that pass, speed on through, make sure he's not following me, check my 6, he's not following me, so I flip back over. A6M had taken enough off of him that he died to the AA. So this leaves me this Edwin again, zoom and boom, keep my speed up, boost up, flip up, stay the vertical as much as you can, flip over. Instead of, of course, turning, the heavy fighter is better off to make the loop up and over. Gives you a chance to keep the energy involved there. Keep your airspeed up, flip up, give me a little bit more altitude, boost up a little higher. I like to be up a little bit higher than this, but of course, once again, you're talking about the gameplay has changed, so you can't always play that high altitude shit. So flip back over. KI-43 is coming at my target. I'm watching, I'm waiting, and I get him turning away from me, which is exactly what you want in a heavy fighter, is for that target to turn away from you, or is crazy enough to make a head-on pass at you. That's the bread and butter of heavy fighters, is to get that them away from you, not paying attention, and or getting them to come at you head on. Because of your HP and of your forward armament, there isn't a lot of light fighters that can even come close. So I got me a Blinum. Once again, I always prefer in a heavy fighter, if I'm going to take on other targets, it's going to be another heavy fighter. And the Blinum is perfect candidate for that. Get in behind him, start pummeling him. 450s and a 37. Doesn't take long to run through his HP. Looking for my next target. And I find Larry. There's Larry. Flip back over. He's turning on me, but I have 3 fighters with me, so I'm not terribly worried about him getting on my tail. Turn back again. If I had to, I would have ran there. I had some altitude, a little bit of altitude, and a little bit of speed on him, so I would eventually outrun him. Flip back over. About that time, I know the Focke-Wulf 189 is back in cap. They're so predictable, the bots. You know where they're at. You see me most of the game loiter here for a reason, obviously, because it's the mining plant. Drop back in on the Focke-Wulf. Start pummeling him. Yeah, love that damage this thing put out. Almost get me a ship with the wing. I'm not sure who would win that. Pretty sure the ship would. Flip back over. Looking for my Focke. He pulls a kind of a crafty devil. Pulls around underneath me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get back on him. So instead, I'll pick on the other GA here, who is in fact just running a nice, gentle attack run as I come around. Pull back around, find my Focke again. Yeah, there you are, buddy. I'll get you this time. Finish him off. Pull back around. Heavy fighters, BSH-2s, make sure you're paying attention to these things. Ground attack planes are always a pain in the ass for light fighters. Even multi-rolls have a hard time with them. Not so much when you're a heavy fighter, though. You have, like I said, the armament and the HP to do this. So if you catch them out alone, kill them. Just do what you got to do to win. Get my boost back up. I'm down 500 feet. It's time to get high. We've pretty much got this in hand, though. So I'm just going to loiter here. And that's kind of playing this heavy fighters. Specifically the P-38 makes a great aircraft for once you gain something, is to keep that dominance over your target. A6M's coming in here. I know I cannot turn with him, so I'm just looking for maybe a few shots in on him. Got my speed up. I'm already going almost 400 miles an hour, so I'm not even worried about him coming in on me. Same way with this guy. He's not paying attention. This is the kind of planes you want. A6M3's over here too. He's not paying attention. Yeah, There we go. There we go. There we go. Put a nice pass into him. Keep my speed up. Push out. Watch my 6. They're not pursuing. Flip back over. And now I'm looking for the KI-43 again. This is what you're talking about here, bread and butter with the heavy fighter. Waiting for him to be going away from you. Or, you know, coming at you. Either and or. This KI-43, yep, coming at me. Put a couple shells in him. Yeah. I'm not turning over. Check the 6. Of course he's turning. He was no interest in me, so I'm not going to bother. Falkwolf, he's coming back in again. Let's see if I can get lucky with the rocket strike. Nope, missed the rockets. Flip back over, and I see the other GA coming in. So he's coming straight at me, and I'm going to try another rocket pass here on him. If you can, you know, if you get this rocket thing down, you know, they're kind of hit and miss. Some people are really good at it, some people not so much. I'm kind of halfway in between to being half-ass decent. And some games, you know, I'll get 2 or 3 rocket kills, and the next time, you know, I might not get a rocket kill for 20 games. I have no idea. Maybe it's an RNG thing. So hence why that's why I put the rockets here. This one actually doesn't have the rockets here. It's just plain rockets. Find the A6M again. Put a bunch of shells into him. Yeah, fellas, just try not to go head to head with a heavy fighters. Just doesn't work out. Same with the blind them. Yeah, yep. Bye bye. And actually, for a heavy fighter, it is fairly maneuverable. You're not going to lose most of the time to other heavy fighters in a dogfight. Caught the P-36 flying away. Flip back over here. Got the BF-110. He's coming straight in on me. And of course, with this aircraft, it's really hard to go nose to nose with this thing. You know, the Beaufighters has a pretty good chance, but if I'm packing rockets, it's pretty much an even game there. And of course, the Bullfighter has rockets as well, but in an actual dogfight, you know, I can stay on the Bullfighter's tail for most of the game if I can get to his rear. Back in the BF-110, I'm just waiting for him to turn. He's a bot, of course, so I'm not really worried about it. He's going to run off. But the squall line's up, so the more I can kill, the better. Follow him down. At this point, I think they only have like 5 or maybe 3, 4 aircraft left, so I wasn't terribly worried about it. You need that's some of the things too. Is you have to make sure you manage your flaps and whatnot to get in on those guys. So I got one more game, and I will be bringing that up right now. All right, guys, back with the last game in the P-38 gameplay review, and you know, I'll reiterate what I was saying earlier. Heavy riders do have a role, and if you play to that role, you're going to be more successful. That's why I love seeing bombers, bomber formations, individual bombers, whatnot. I love seeing them because I like playing that role of a heavy fighter as, you know, bomber suppression. So we pull in here on the command center. Of course, they got me some bombs. Why not? Let's see if I can knock out some stuff. Kind of a really shitty aim on that. P-40's coming after me. I do get some damage in on him. Roll over. Looking for that P-40 that's coming around. Maybe I'll get a shot at him. Nope. Other P-40's behind me. Up and over. And he's dead too. Command center's taken. They're working the center over pretty hard, and now I'm climbing to altitude. Why? Because I know they have a command center, and bombers will be coming. So I type into chat here that I will take care of bombers. And I've said this how many times in different videos. Playing that role of bomber suppression frees up so many planes. You can take on a bomber formation by yourself in heavy fighter. You have the guns. You have the HP. You have the altitude performance. You have the speed to do this. And this is what you should be doing. And of course you have rockets, which is a big deal. Letting my team know that I'll take care of the bombers. with just one plane instead of 5 or 6, it'll definitely help win the game. So, got the bomber formation coming up here, and this is kind of the reason why I chose Rocketeer as my skill for this aircraft. The first 2 points, because I do use rockets quite often in this plane, especially when I'm dealing with bombers and even GAs and whatnot. I do. I have a tendency to use them quite extensively. They're not the greatest for hitting targets, so I do spam them quite a lot. Unless, of course, I'm right on their tail. That's a little different story. Finish off a second one, flip up and over. Let them get out ahead of me a little bit. And pull down and start pummeling with that big 37. And you'll see some of the big numbers come off these planes when that 37 hits. I mean, it doesn't take long, a matter of just a few seconds for a full health bomber to go from 0 to nothing with these guns. And that's what I'm going to be literally doing most of this game, is flying this bomber suppression. Not just this bomber groups, but you've noticed here I keep flipping back and forth my alt button, looking for those guys, A26s. And I'm going to be trying to catch them, because if you leave them alone long enough, they will flip caps on you. And if you have to constantly be worried about your cap going to crap because of these guys, it's just best to take them out. I'm not too worried about the bomber formation now, because there's 3 incoming fighters headed for there. So I am freed up to a certain degree to go after these individual bombers. And of course, he's within range rather quickly. Starts pummeling him. Yeah. Got this guy flipping down. And of course, he's probably a veteran bot. He doesn't look like a dummy. Flip back up on over, playing that role. Of course, he gets my wing damage, and he flips back underneath me. Wow, look at that guy. But it doesn't really matter. Once I get his tail, it's just a matter of letting the 50s work on that. Find the Ju-88P down here, but that's when I noticed the incoming heavy fighter here. The XP-55, of course, is my first target. Once again, playing that role of the heavy fighter. Those should be your primary targets, bombers and other heavy fighters, followed by GAs, and when you have to, of course, light fighters and multi-rolls. Ju-88's over here. Time for a little bit of a zoom and boom. He's not much of a threat to me, but you know what? Yeah, he's a threat to my objective. Alright, start boosting back up. And and this is the great thing about this plane. Its climb rate is just ridiculous. P-47N's coming in. And yeah, you want to go nose to nose? Sure, buddy. Flip up. Do the vertical instead of the horizontal. Pull back over. Nail him. And now I'm just nosing her over and using that speed of mine to get away from him. So now if he does want to try to follow me, I'm going to be over 400 miles an hour, and he's not going to catch me. Check my 6. He's dead. Probably got nailed. I'd taken so much health off of him. He most likely got nailed by AA. So back up to the top here. Keep my boost up as much as I can. Trying to gain altitude. Trying to get to the last set of bombers up here. And like I said, you watch me play this for a reason. This is the mining facility. This is worth 2 regular objectives, so I want to keep this alive. So A26, he's running. Finish him off. So I hope you guys enjoyed the game and the review, and I'll be bringing up some more of these iconic airplanes later.